everybody out there listening, a very warm White Cat welcome, because you're tuned in to the White Cat Outdoors podcast. There he is. Welcome.
Slight delay.
Welcome to the episode. What?
It's 29, Frank.
Yeah, the heat's really getting to me. I can't talk, and I thought it was episode 31, but it's not. It's 29, and Nick's here, as always.
Hey, what's going on?
And Tom's here, too.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to be here.
Glad to be in the studio.
Yeah, we should get air conditioning in the studio.
Yeah, it's moist in here.
Yeah, a lot. I don't love it. It was like 94 when I was leaving work today. It sucked.
Like, on your way home from work, you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be leaving.
Well, leaving work. I was going to say leaving for work would be in the morning.
Yeah, you're good there, Nick. Just pump the brakes.
Slow it down. Apparently he's had more than one of those beers.
I haven't even had one, just cracked it.
How about that? So, what are we talking about?
We got a little housekeeping. We got
But
White
you
Cat
got- you got
Palooza
some-
going on this weekend.
No,
No,
we
what-
don't. Oh.
2 weekends.
It's
2 weekends,
two
yeah.
weeks, yeah. 25th.
Yeah, so we're pretty excited about that.
Say the date. I said it, but you say it.
25th. White Cat Palooza. All you listeners out there, more than welcome to come.
It'll be-
Just message us.
DM us here for details. Yep.
It's going to be a good time. We're giving away koozies, big time stuff. So it's going to just be, it's going to be wild. Have a little bonfire, a little cornhole action. Just a good time to get everybody together. So
Oh, yeah. Anything else you want to housekeep, Tom?
I think the floor's pretty much swept.
Yeah, that's about it.
So, as Frank asked before we were rudely interrupted.
I wouldn't even say rudely. I think
just
it was
did
a
it.
pretty appropriate
Yeah,
interruption.
well, he did call it housekeeping, so we'll give him that.
Yeah. You got to let the housekeeping slide.
We got a few things on the list of things to talk about.
A lot of it brought to us by our good friend Jimmy.
I was just
Yeah.
about to say that, actually. A lot
No,
of
you
this stuff, I really was.
Yeah.
The one that told Tom that this is where a lot of our inspiration came on for this episode. So, Jimmy, if you're listening, I appreciate it.
Jimmy Corral.
Yeah, Jimmy Corral. He's actually league commissioner for a huge softball organization in Northwest Pennsylvania. So
I think he's won Edinburgh's best mustache 3 years in a row, too.
I think he has.
He's probably going for a fourth if he keeps it up.
Yeah.
But anyway, so just a few things we're going to talk about. Trail cameras, visual scouting. And this is all like preseason stuff, of course. Tree stand setup, baits, and attractants, lures, and calls. We're going to kind of just bounce the ideas off the three of us because we each kind of do things a little differently, or not do it at all. Who knows? We're going to find out here soon if you keep listening. So, Frank, I guess since we go clockwise, that'd be you next. Let's just start.
Do we always go clockwise? That's how we do
Yes.
it?
Yeah, we do.
How neat is that?
We've been doing that since day one.
How about it?
I think so. But anyway, so let's start with trail cam use and how you use it, like where you're putting your cameras. Well, I'll just let you get into it.
Yeah,
Trail
why don't you
cameras
just stop
preseason.
talking?
I'm gonna
Preseason
shut up
cameras,
now.
Frank.
Boom. So yeah, me and Jimmy were talking about this last week at the softball game, or was it last week or 2 weeks ago? It doesn't
Last
matter. But he just asked me what his question was how long do I usually leave my trail cams out, and I usually leave them out for about 3 weeks ish at a time, depending on where they're at. Like on field edges and stuff, I'll set them to pictures so I don't just destroy my battery, because I'm obviously going to be hitting a high traffic area like on a bean field. So I don't want to just burn through batteries like crazy. So I'll set them to pictures, but ones that I have like in the woods that aren't as full of traffic, but I think are going to be like more productive as far as seeing nicer bucks that I want to actually look at. I'll set those to video so I can, get a little bit more, get the good angles, you know what I'm saying? And obviously the video destroys the battery on pretty much any camera that you have. I've never found one that holds up well to videos. So those ones I'll typically leave out for about the same time, 2-3 weeks. I'll check all my cameras at the same time, and they'll usually last about 5 weeks, the ones that I run right now, with pretty average traffic on the videos. So I'll check them at 3 to make sure if they got any extra traffic, then the batteries aren't dead and stuff. So yeah, that's basically how long I'll leave them out. And like I said, I like putting them on field edges, especially like this time of year, because they're always out feeding, and Dad and I actually went out the other night. It was so hot during the days. The past, 4 days has been in the 90s, and cools down in like the 70s in the evening. So I've been going out to our one lease and watching the bean fields, and it's just been loaded with deer every single day this week. I saw first day I went out there, I wasn't even planning on going. I was just driving down the road in the evening, and I noticed there was a bunch of deer out in every field I passed. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go swing by the cement plant, see what's going on over there. And deer everywhere. I walked out to the field, and about 150 yards away, they were just stacked
I
up.
thought you were going to say 150-inch deer. I was gonna say, wow, that's big.
Yeah,
Especially this time.
yeah. No, it was not a 150, but about 150 yards away, there was a nice big old bachelor group. There was I think 5 or 6 bucks in the group, and most of them were small little either fork horns or baskets. But there was 2. I don't want to say big bucks, but they're nice bucks. They're 18-inch 8s-ish. I didn't have my binos on me, so I couldn't get a great look at them. But from 150 yards, there was no problem seeing a bunch of points and decent width and stuff. So that was pretty exciting. So I've been going back, every day this week, even though it's been ridiculously hot. Even like right now, it's still 90 friggin' degrees, and it's 7 o'clock at night. It's ridiculous.
So because we're based out of PA and all the states we hunt besides Ohio, which we hunt public land in Ohio, so it's also illegal there, is baiting. So we have baits on the list here I wanted to talk about. So we're going to use it or talk about baits in reference to prior to the season, which we are allowed in PA. I know it's not allowed in New York, and I don't know about Ohio.
I have no idea.
But PA, you're allowed to use them before the season. So I do want to ask, what kind of, do you use any sort of baits on your trail cameras?
No, I never put anything out. My dad will sometimes put, I think, Lucky Buck out, but I never.
Smells like Kool-Aid.
Yeah, it literally does.
I'd love to taste it, but I'm not
I
confident.
know, I've been close to tasting or mixing it up.
I've tasted it, and I've tasted the molasses syrup that you can put, like the
I'm sure it just tastes sugary.
Black Magic, I think they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Deer cane. Yeah, I've tasted it all. It's not bad.
I mean, it's like those shock collars. You got to do it on yourself first. You got to know what you're
Yeah,
doing.
you got to see if the deer are gonna like it.
Yeah, if you don't like it, what makes you think the deer are gonna like
Exactly.
it? Yeah.
Very
But
true.
yeah, so
Good point.
I don't use any of that stuff on mine. Like I said, I'll put it on like bean fields and stuff, just so that's a natural attractant, or just high traffic areas. That's all I use for my trail cameras. I never put stuff on it to bring the deer to it.
Gotcha. Tommy, how are you using trail cameras to benefit your hunting?
Well, Nick, I'll tell you. Right now, I'm not trying to pattern deer right now. I'm just trying to get an inventory
Yeah,
of
same. That's basically
what kind of deer are in the area. And the way I go about doing that is feeders, buddy. Feeders.
So you're a Ted Nugent bait kind of guy.
In the preseason, yes. 30 days before the season, you better believe those feeders are pulled. And there's,
Good, they better be.
yeah, not a ounce of bait left.
That's
I'll
bait.
dig up my sights.
Well, you better not even have a half ounce.
Yeah,
So
none.
that's
Zero.
Good.
Yeah, so I got out at our new farm here 3 feeders. I fill them with corn. Deer love corn. And
Always.
yeah, oh God, yeah. And I'll put a mineral block out there next to it, just see what they like. And
You put it right with the corn feeder?
oh yeah, sure, yeah, right next to it. If they're gonna eat the corn, they're gonna lick the mineral block.
Well, I wasn't sure if you used them like separately, like you put one on one camera and one on another, or like you put the corn feeder.
Tom
in a
doubles
field.
down.
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm trying to figure out what I got in my block.
Yeah, and I'm
And-
sure it helps get
I thought
another
you said it
angle of the
was
deer.
salt or minerals.
What?
You said, what do you got in your block? It's usually salt or minerals.
You're an idiot.
Yeah, Nick, you're dumb. In the square that I'm hunting.
Oh, okay.
You're just
Back
full
to
of it
shapes.
today.
You're It's been a while since we've had a shapes with Tom.
Well,
Yeah.
technically, a block shape.
Yeah.
It is a shape. Anyway, yeah, so that's what I do 30 days, up to 30 days before the season. Okay? And I get my inventory of,
Find your hit list.
yeah, got my hit list. And then I pull my cameras and, or no, I don't, sorry. Pull my
your
feeders.
There you go.
Pull the feeders, pull the bait blocks. And then I move the cameras to deer trails. And the preseason and early archery season, I focus basically all my attention on the food source or travel areas to a food source. So I'll put my camera right on the edge of a field, facing the field, or in the woods on a deer trail leading out into the woods or out into the field. I'm sorry. That way, I can catch what's coming out into that field, and I can catch them, in the woods before it gets dark out. So a little bit earlier, I haven't.
Just cut them off before they
staging
get there.
areas, I think.
Yeah,
what they like to call it.
Yeah, I've noticed, a lot of the spots that I hunt around fields, there's like some thicker hedgerows, and a lot of times they'll get into those thick hedgerows, and I've watched them just come up, within 10 feet of the edge, of the field, and just stand there and stare, and they just survey the field for 10, 15 minutes before they walk out. So even though they're right there, they're not in somewhere that you can shoot. So if you just back it up on the other side of the hedgerow or whatever, you can cut them off before they stand there for 10 minutes, because if they come right at last light, they're standing there, by the time they step out, you don't have a shot.
It's too late. Yeah, so early archery season, if you can position yourself in between bedding and food, I think you're pretty good, pretty well set. And that's where I put my cameras, 30 days before the season, just to try and figure out what I got coming through there. And
that's one thing, I like to leave mine out all year.
Oh, yeah.
Or like especially all season.
I like to leave them after the season to see what made it through. I get a second inventory after gun season. I put my feeders back out, so I see what made it through the deer season, what I have to look forward to next year.
Yeah, and I like to leave mine like throughout the season, or I'll tweak them a little bit. If I'm hunting a spot, I'll move them, around like the outer reaches of where I can see to get a better feel, like how stuff's traveling to me. Or like I have a few stands that I've noticed, like there's like a 10-day window for that spot. And actually it's where I killed my Pope and Young buck. Before October 20th, you might as well not even sit in the stand. I never saw deer before October 20th. And then until like the first few days of November, like to the 5th of November, after that it cooled back off. It was a great spot in that time, but in between, or before and after, it's not even worth going there. So I think leaving cameras in certain spots during the season will show you their different travel patterns throughout the season, as the rut comes and goes, the pre-rut, and because they do totally different things at different times of the season,
right.
Just throughout the month and a half of archery season.
They do the same thing year after year.
Yeah, exactly.
So, there's a big buck, and he's obviously, the most dominant buck in that area. He has the prime bedding spot. He knows what's safest for him, what works the best for him. Well, if that buck gets shot, the next buck
one's moving
right into where that one was, because he had the prime spot. Mm-hmm. So I've seen that a lot with deer. Like you have, like Frank said, a good spot.
That's how my dad shot, where I shot my Pope and Young buck. 2 years before that, my dad shot, and it was just shy of 130. I think it was like 128. Out of the exact same stand. The deer were standing like 5 feet apart from where we shot them. So, and it was the same time frame. It's just certain spots produce, good bucks at certain times. It could be a great spot this time, but a few days before or after, you're not going to have anything going on. And like you said, when you kill that nice buck, the next one's probably going to move in.
But and then once the season moves on, I move my cameras to scrapes. Big scrape guy.
Yeah, me too. I
love putting a camera on a scrape.
See, I'm gonna say real quick, I'm not a fan of doing cameras on scrapes, and only because
you're missing out.
Only because, and you can, I'm sure you will disagree with me because
I will.
You guys do this, but I try to stay like away from like going to a scrape that I don't have to go to and like check cameras and stuff. If I had maybe like a cell camera, I might consider putting them on there. But when I'm like hunting scrapes and stuff, like I try and stay away from where a deer's probably going to access it. And I just hate to go in there constantly checking a camera every couple weeks, like throughout the season and stuff. Like I
check it when I hunt.
Yeah, exactly. I check them when I hunt, or like.
So what does that benefit you if you're only checking it when you hunt? Like what do you gaining from like.
Well, I mean, if it's a spot that you hunt in the evening, you check it and you're getting a bunch of morning pictures, then
you know to step in the morning.
yeah.
Okay.
But like you're saying, you don't want to keep going in. But how many field edges do you walk down? Anywhere there's an apple tree hanging out into the field, there's a scrape under it.
Yeah, I guess
And
I'm
you
talking
walk those
more,
field edges all the time.
I guess I'm
and it doesn't deter the
considering
deer.
more like the scrapes you're finding for more like mating versus like the
Yeah.
ones on field edges a lot of times
Yeah,
are more
they're just marked
territorial.
Territory scrapes, yeah.
And I think territory scrapes I would have no problem putting cameras on, but when it comes to like the scrapes that are outside bedding areas,
The big breeding scrapes.
Yeah, big breeding scrapes, I would probably, at least me, well, I'm not going to say probably, I do stay away from putting cameras on those just because I don't want unwanted or unnecessary traffic to those ones. But I do understand like the ones that are on field edges and stuff that you're going to
Yeah,
walk
you're
by
not going to
anyway.
disturb the deer
because
going to those.
I mean, and I piss in the scrapes, not in breeding areas, but yeah, I'll take one. Frank's asking beers, in case anybody didn't know.
But yeah, Nick, I agree. I'll make my own scrape and piss right in it, right 20 yards from my stand. And I've had deer literally come right to it, which I don't know if I'd recommend that strategy.
I've seen it work, but doesn't mean to do it
I
all
don't
the
know
time.
if it, I've never had a big buck.
Oh, the
come up
fork
to
horns
it.
love it.
Oh
though.
yeah.
Anyway, so I'm going to talk about, since I'm starting to talk about what I don't do with cameras, I'm just going to jump right into what I use cameras for. And I'm a bit of a hybrid user. I do have one camera over some bait. And that's, like Tom said, for inventory purposes.
Yeah.
Just to try and see what's on the farm. Because, I mean, obviously, you put a corn pile out, you're going to attract some deer
Oh
around.
yeah. Even if it's not a spot you plan on hunting anywhere near, you just want to see stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I'm just trying to see what's in the area. And then I also use cameras, so I will do a little bit of scouting in the woods and not necessarily like sitting and like looking for deer. It's more trying to find like heavily used trails close to bedding. Not like necessarily right on it, but trying to find like those heavily used trails where there's a lot of mature sized tracks in it. And then I will put cameras so one thing I've learned over the years is not putting it like perpendicular to the trail, and go more not quite parallel, but like
Yeah, I know
at an
what you
angle
mean.
down. And I do videos as well, and that way you get more of a like a better angle of the deer. Because if you put it perpendicular to the trail, sometimes you just get the ass end.
I was just going to say, a lot of them, they don't trip fast enough, so you just get the ass of the deer as they're exiting the view of the camera, so it's kind of like a wasted picture video or whatever. But
Yeah, so what I like to do is kind of put it in an angle, so as they're coming across, you get a better chance of a good shot. But throughout the season, I do like to leave my cameras up late, and partially I think a little bit of that is just a little bit of laziness. Once the season hits, I'm just busy and don't feel like pulling cameras. But it's always cool to see. I think it's good to see that, because the following year you can kind of see what deer are doing at different times.
Yeah, and you can't hunt every spot that you have
Exactly.
every day. So if you have a camera, at this stand, and you want to hunt another spot, even if you do get a big buck on that camera, it kind of pisses you off, like, oh, I didn't get the opportunity when he was right there. But you learned, like I was saying, with the dates for certain stands, or hot spots, you can learn when those time frames are for that stand,
Which, just like real quick, that new camera I'm using also has like a prime time thing where it and I think there's other cameras that are doing it now too, that like log what time the pictures are being taken, and it gives you a little graphic on like what the highlight time that most pictures are being taken. And and that can, if you get a windy day, it's going to throw it off when it takes pictures of grass. But if you gonna go through your pictures and stuff, it does kind of help show when you're getting the most activity, which I haven't used it during the season yet, but it might be neat to see how that works.
Yeah, and it's easier to look at that graph or whatever than sit and
trying to pick.
write down every single time of every picture you have.
So, but that's about all I have for cameras and baits on cameras. Obviously, no baits during the season, but
Obvi.
the next thing I want to get to is, I already hinted on it a little bit, is scouting prior to the season. Jimmy didn't talk too much about scouting.
No, we weren't really talking about scouting
But I felt
too
like
much.
because we're on cameras and some other things we're covering, scouting's a big part of preparing for the season. We've been already talked about food plots and stuff throughout the summer. We got Owen Zimmer on.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting to a point where scouting is going to start. I'm already starting. I don't know.
Yeah, like I said,
anybody-
I've been going out to our
Yeah, I
one
know.
lease every day this week,
Yeah, and
just
Tom's,
looking around.
I know, been doing some scouting, but I know we'll just talk a little bit about how we're going about that and what we're doing to prepare for the season. So we'll start with Frank.
Yeah,
again.
I just pretty much, wherever I want to hunt, different spots that I have an idea maybe I want to try them, I'll just, I'll take my climber out and I'll go sit. I'll sit for an evening or a couple evenings in a row and just see what it looks like, or just wander around, find a good trail, and set up my stand and hang out for whatever. And obviously that'll change as the season approaches. The different temperatures and rut coming up, it'll change the patterns and stuff. But at least it gives you an idea. And once you have like your rough idea, then you can tweak once the season shows up. As you sit there during season and notice them, I see deer more like 50 yards over this way a little bit more, so you can just tweak your stand a little bit here and there to refine it once the season comes. But you do the majority of the work and get your basic area before the season just by literally hunting,
Without a weapon.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I approach it as well. Like when you're in the woods and stuff, is just act as if you are hunting.
Yeah, exactly.
And just try and put yourself in a position to kill.
Yeah, and that's
Basically.
basically what I do. Is I pretend, okay, I'm going out to kill a deer tonight, even though I don't bring a weapon or anything. I'll just bring my binoculars and a camera. And
Sometimes your greatest weapon is your mind.
not yours,
I
but
think that was William Shakespeare.
Snake spear.
Snake's beard.
snake's beard.
Yeah.
I heard they got long ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with you too. That's just my opinion. I don't.
Sounds like a stupid opinion.
Yeah, you see, the thing of it is, scholars and doctors
This ought to
all
be
around.
I can already. This is gonna be dumb.
It's not dumb. Well, everybody says your best hunt is your first hunt in a stand.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you hang your stand, or you go into a spot and hunt it 5-6 times before the season. Well, now your scent's on that tree, your scent's in that area, and those deer may not affiliate it with danger, but they know something new is in that area. So I do my scouting from a distance.
I was actually going to bring something up like that later on, like the whole first sit being great, but I'll pretend you didn't talk about it and
And then
you
just
don't know.
bring it up.
Yeah, like it was my idea the whole
Yeah.
time.
So I'll just,
Observation sits.
yeah, observation sits, and usually it's from my truck on the road. Mm-hmm. Just
Completely stay out of it.
just watch them come out into the field, night after night, see where they're coming out.
Well, I'll do that
Well,
on
I
fields.
guess see that makes Tom's big time field hunter.
Well, I do quite a bit too.
See,
So
I'm not. It's for where I like to hunt. It's really tough to sit
Yeah,
from
you're-
my truck.
yeah, you're not going to be able to sit in the truck when you're hunting halfway through the square.
Yes, I'm not a big. I will hunt fields. I'm not going to go on
Yeah.
record saying I don't hunt fields, but that's not where I find most of my success. The only time only one of my bucks I've killed on a food source. Mm-hmm. Everything else has been in the woods. I mean, food source probably had something to do with it but I'm not sitting on a field edge. But anyway, Tom,
I've killed them in the fields, in the food source, in the woods.
Yeah.
I don't.
Same
it don't
here.
matter. Bedding areas, you name it.
Nick just doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah,
keep consistent distance on that mic.
Who needs it?
get real.
That's why we're looking at getting new mics, because we have children like you on.
Anyway, yeah, I watch from the field, see where they're coming out into the woods, and I see them coming out in the same spot every night right before dark. If the wind's right, I'll hunt it opening day.
Yeah, and
it
then
usually
even-
changes.
But even
Yeah.
if
Normally,
even if you don't hunt the field edge, you see.
where they're coming out,
Yeah. So then you can back into the woods. And if it's not like you see them coming out right here every day, they're not going to be 100 yards away and then walk the field edge right to where they come out. Most of the time anyway.
Yeah, they're gonna.
Come from the woods, so
Yeah.
you can pinpoint a little bit more that way, by watching them come out.
Yeah, that's just how I go about it.
So for me, my scouting actually starts in. I'm sure some people are going to recant their statements too. My scouting starts back closer to like February and March.
Yeah.
When I start shed hunting, because this is going to sound extremely elementary, but just going to throw it out there. If you find sheds, that bucks are traveling in that area. It's very obvious, but think about that. If you're out shed hunting if you're finding an area that's got several sheds, it's probably a good spot to be.
Yeah, they're spending time there.
So that's when my scouting starts. But then, as summer goes along, me and Tom do a lot of spotting or glassing like at night and stuff.
Well, spotting's more or less inventory.
That's an inventory
as well.
thing. Just trying to figure out what's in the area.
Yeah.
Which
It's
is
kind of tough to tell where the deer came from when it's 9:30 at night and they're already in the middle of the field.
Yeah, 400 yards out
Well,
in the
you
field.
just look at the way they're pointing and the way that their tail shakes, and that's a dead giveaway of where they came from.
Gotcha.
Backtrack it.
Yeah.
Done.
That makes
Snakes
sense.
do the same way. The way the cut is on a snake's poop tells you exactly where they're heading.
And
So-
they won't change direction.
Never.
No, it's actually it's like a compass. It really is. The side that gets pinched off, you follow that like a little arrow. It's like the north on a needle for a compass.
It always points north.
No.
Always points the way the snake's going.
Yeah, it's like a compass. A snake compass.
For that specific snake.
Yeah. Never failed me yet. But
It would
anyways,
work for deer if, like, they have just little round pellets. They don't really pinch it off. But
yeah. So, like I said, that's just a little tidbit of information for,
that doesn't mean anything.
yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't regard any of that.
Nick's
Just-
brain power hard at work again.
Yeah.
Yeah, just disregard that last 45-second spiel.
Yeah. We'll put a warning in there. Don't pay attention to the next 45 seconds of information. But anyway, so I do a lot of glassing, and then putting my trail cameras out starts, the scouting that's going to be more realistic for hunting. What I do once I get my cameras in, like the ones that I've got in the woods that are on heavily used trails, I start like walking different ways into that camera just to try and see other areas that I maybe didn't see. And sometimes I'll move cameras based on that. If, one camera's starting to go dry, but I see
Well, and
something
not
opening
only
up.
for cameras walking in different ways, you might find a better way to approach the area, because a lot of times
Exactly.
you find a spot like, oh, this is a really good spot, I would really like to hunt there, but the way I'm coming in, I feel like I'm going to be blowing deer out every time I
Yeah.
go in. So if you walk it from several different ways before the season, you might find, okay, this is a nice, quiet, easy walk in. I'm not blowing shit out every time I go by.
Yeah, and I use Onyx to help me with that too.
Yeah,
is
same.
Marking spots on my way in, and then even tracing my track. Or what was that feature called?
Track tracer.
Is that what
Just
exactly
laying
what it
a
is?
track, yeah.
Yeah, which is nice because if you do find a way that was super quiet, you felt was not very invasive, follow that trail in. You can label it as access to this area or whatever. So that's what's nice about using Onyx. While even with trail cameras, I mark all my cameras on Onyx, and they've got so many different options. You can mark scrapes and rubs and trails and everything.
Yeah.
But then once the season starts, I'd still do a little bit of scouting.
Well, anytime you're hunting,
Yeah,
you're
any
basically
hunt is
scouting.
basically scouting, but I don't really do any observation sits. I mean, kind of observation sits during the season, but my thing is like if I'm hunting, it's during the season, it's a small window throughout the year. I want to be in a point where I feel like I can kill, or I'm going to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have the confidence or the excitement of being in the woods. Like if I set myself into a place where I'm just observing tonight, I'm not going to try and kill anything. It's kind of already setting the stage
Yeah.
for nothing to happen.
Yeah.
So even if I am observing an area, I like to be in an opportunity to kill still.
Yeah, you still want your setup to be...
Yeah, I mean, because there's been places I've hunted where I set up my stand, hunt it, realize that all the action is 60 yards
Yeah,
deeper or
for
something. So
sure,
then
yeah.
the next time I go, I just get in there a little bit deeper on them.
Yeah, just
And-
bump over wherever you see the traffic.
Yeah. So, but that's how I'm, scouting up throughout the season. Like I said, it pretty much starts as soon as antlers start dropping.
Yeah.
But the next thing, now that we've gotten through scouting and everything, now this one is another James Corral, softball league commissioner himself. Question was
Mustache growing son of a gun.
Yeah, that's him. You guys know him, you love him. Tree stand setup. So he's on target for a big buck he's been watching for a while, and was asking me and Frank about how we go about setting up tree stands, when to trim them, when not to trim them, how to trim them, and just that kind of sort of thing. So we'll just
We doing the clockwise
Oh, of
thing
course,
again?
we aren't going to switch it up now.
Hey, Frank, can I get a beer?
Yeah, buddy. Just give me 1 sec. It was supposed to be my turn to talk, but we'll take a pause. Nick, do you have something to say in the meantime?
Tell us
Yeah.
a joke.
That's
Little Johnny comes home from school one day, slightly confused.
yeah, we're not going to do that. Now that Tom has wasted enough time by starting a joke that we're not going to tell, Frank's back.
I sure am. So I actually have two complete opposite schools of thought on the whole stand placement and
So I'm just
trimming.
going to ask the way you do this. Can you do one and the other and not try and bounce back and forth, just so it's very cut and dry?
Yeah. So and they have like their place, I guess. So if I'm hunting a field edge, like an early season sits, I like to do field edges. So for those stands, I like to be done, stand set, all the pruning done, ready to go, well before the season. Like right now, basically, a couple months before the season. I get it done, so it's got way more than enough time to settle down. The deer can get used to any branches that you trim and, different things that you change. So, like, I really noticed at one time my dad trimmed and moved a stand that was on a field that I was hunting. The field's, probably a 20-acre field. And I was sitting on one side of it, and my dad moved a stand on the other side. It was probably 400 yards, 500 yards from me. And I had been seeing a lot of deer coming out over near that stand from where I was at. And he moved it on, I think it was like a Monday or something. Doesn't matter what day it was. And I hunted it the next day. And no deer went over there. And I saw a couple deer that would come out in the field like several hundred yards from that spot. And they'd walk out and they would immediately go into panic mode. They'd tensed up. They were real flighty. They'd look over there and notice that, a bunch of branches were cut and, stacked up, pushed off to the side next to that stand. There was a lot different that they were looking at. So for setups like that, I really like to have it done as early as possible so those deer that might make their way to you, they come out into that field and they're at ease. They don't come out and they're like, oh shit, that's totally different than it was yesterday. So, and I think that setup, I want them done early because they can see so much farther out in the field. So they have a lot more time to react and notice something is wrong before they are right on top of you in bow range. And my other school of thought is, like with the mobile hunting, everybody knows we're big time mobile hunters. Then huge. That's where I was going back with the whole virgin sit thing. I think, the first sit is the best sit in that situation because if I'm, deep in the woods and on bedding or whatever, you get into a spot and set up, the deer have no clue you've been there, and before they even notice something is awry, there's a branch cut, you can already put an arrow in them because they can't see 500 yards down through the woods. By the time they notice it, they're within 40 yards. And that's why, I have the two totally different things that I do, but it has its application.
Yeah, it's different locations.
Yeah. So it's that I pretty much don't deviate from that unless like I set up a stand, like a permanent stand that I would want set up well before the season. If I sit in it a bunch of times and I'm like, wow, this is really buns, like I'm not seeing anything here, like all my traffic is 100 yards to this side or 50 yards to that side, I'm not in bow range, then I'll move something during season. And
well, yeah, because that some chance is better than no chance.
yeah, exactly. If you're in a bad spot, it is what it is. It's a bad spot. But if you're in a good spot, I think you don't want to risk messing that up with cutting a bunch of stuff and, giving the deer something new to look at that'll make them a little nervous. But like I said, that depends on your situation and where exactly it is.
Tom?
What's up?
Yeah.
Doing a podcast.
Yeah. Headphones, the mic.
We got it all.
Yeah. The question about tree stand setup is on the table at the time.
Yeah, so trimming. I'm agreeing with Frank. Permanent.
On wood, he's got two.
If you'd let me finish one damn sentence.
Tom, can you finish the sentence?
May I, Nick?
I don't want to interrupt you. Go.
Thanks. Permanent stands, yeah, get in there early, trim them out, give it a little bit of time to grow back, look natural again, make the deer feel comfortable in that area. But like he said, big mobile guy, get in there. Maybe I don't trim when I'm mobile hunting. If I need to, snip a branch to get up the tree, yeah. But I'm not going to cut a clear 20-yard strip, one north, east, south, and west.
Yeah, with mobile hunting, you try to more set up so that you don't have to disturb a bunch of stuff. And if you do, then you don't disturb a bunch of stuff. You just kind of nip a limb here or there, like you were saying. It's not like a huge change.
Yeah, I'm not cutting shooting lanes, like you would for gun season or a tree stand that you're shooting out into a field.
Yeah.
Something like that. No. When I set up, this is my first year with the mobile tree stand with the sticks and...
You say you've been mobile hunting, but
Yeah,
a climber.
big climber guy.
Yeah.
Love the climber. Huge fan. Wasn't a huge fan of not being able to get up any tree you wanted.
Yeah.
So...
You went to your old pal Nick and said, Nick,
Give me that Lone Wolf custom gear stuff.
I got a
It's
problem.
actually an XOP.
Oh, yours is an... I have an XOP climber.
Me and Frank are still anxiously waiting for Lone Wolf Custom Gears products, but we won't get into that. We're just anxiously waiting.
Any hooser. Yeah, big climber guy. I would set myself up in a situation where my shots were going to be 20 yards or less.
Yeah, same.
Where you don't need to trim anything.
What would you call that sort of setup, Tom? Like
Top pin action is what I like to call it. And I like to smoke them under 10 yards. I'll do it again and again.
Oh, yeah.
it's fun stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
I do the same thing when I'm setting up my mobile setup. I want my shots to be 15, 20 yards.
My closest shot I think was 7. I'm not a huge fan of that.
Yeah, when they get a little too close, it gets pretty
20
dicey.
yards
Say
is
15
perfect.
to 20 is that is
Money.
the sweet spot.
Yeah, when I like to be 12 to 14 feet ish. I'll go a little higher, I'll go a little lower, but
You're telling me you're not 30 plus?
no. I mean,
Get off
I've
this
heard it's a
podcast.
whole new hunting experience. 30 feet up in a tree. I'm not buying it.
Not necessarily a good experience, just a new one.
It's called Skyline.
Yeah, so I'll 10 to 14 is where you'll find me. Deer won't find me though.
No, they will not.
Yeah, so that 15
So
to 20 yards, that it's not dumb. I heard you mumble that. That way, you're not shooting a huge steep angle. It's just
Yeah.
it's perfect. It's just
money.
right.
It's top pin action.
It feels right.
Yeah.
How about you, Nick? What's yours? Do you agree with me and Tom, or are you going to have some stupid thing to say?
He's
like
always
you did
got
before?
something stupid to
No.
say.
So for me, last year, I've always been big into mobile hunting, but last year I made the switch over to climbing sticks and a lock on. And my goal last year was to only hunt for that style. So I didn't do any trimming like prior to the season or
Yeah.
anything.
You weren't hunting any permanent spots.
I had virgin sits every single day I was out, it was.
Can we not? He's just first time in.
I'm
You
gonna
don't
call
like
it a
the
virgin sit.
you don't like the virgin set?
Just doesn't hit. It's kind of like tidbit.
I have
not
been.
for you?
If you listen back, I've been saying tidbit at least once an episode.
Yeah, I know.
They do sound pretty similar, tidbit and virgin sit. It's
Wow.
pretty close.
No wonder I like saying both of them. So
Yeah.
there I am with all my virgin sits, and I'm gonna just give you this tidbit information. I'm just kidding. But anyway,
Yeah, Nick, give us a tidbit on virgin sits.
you'll see more deer that way if you're doing it strategically. Last year I did see a ton of deer. Passed on a lot of bucks that I will admittedly would have shot any other year, but had something spectacular.
Don't listen to him, guys.
Tom,
He's lying.
you guys all
These
know.
monster bucks he's passing, they're probably
I didn't. Not once did I
14-inch
say
6
monster.
points.
Did I even
These
say the size of
huge.
these bucks?
I thought you said
Boone and
booner.
Crockett bucks that I was passing up on a regular basis.
Yeah,
is
that's
what you
exactly
said.
what I said.
Every night.
And it's easy because they can just, hit that back 15 seconds there and they can just rehear all of it. But anyways, I ate tag soup this year because passed on all these booners after this
Finally, he
Pope and
admits it.
Young buck that I was after, But anyways, so I didn't do any trimming. If I did, it was like in the stand. Like
Just
you get
to
up,
move stuff out of the
Yeah.
way of your bow.
So you did do trimming.
Well, I wouldn't call it trimming because a lot of it was just within arm's reach and just a little snap of a twig with my hand. I didn't use any trimming devices. So it's kind of a gray area.
No, it's pretty cut and clear.
Well, I didn't cut
Get
anything
it cut
either.
and clear because we're talking about
I just
trimming
broke it
stands.
down the way
great
I do
joke.
it. There's lots of puns we've got going on there.
Haven't laughed at one.
Yeah. But one thing I do want to throw in on, shot angle and stuff like that. I started last year, especially actually when me and Frank went to Ohio. I dropped two of my sticks and was just doing my climbing stand or my lock on and 2 climbing sticks. And that was putting me in
About 10 feet.
Yeah, I was like 8 to 12 there. And at that height, I was staying secluded. I was doing a lot of like in hemlocks or oak trees and stuff. I felt confident that, if you had that shot inside 10 yards, because I wasn't up that high, I still felt like I could get a double lung hit easily.
Yeah, and like you said, you're not putting that setup, 8 to 10 feet or 8 to 12 feet. You're not putting that in, a cherry tree out in the open. You're putting that somewhere that you're secluded. So even though you're a little bit lower.
Most of the time, you've got one window for them to walk and shoot, like that's it. I mean,
so even though you're lower, you're not out in the open.
Yeah, the one I was literally standing out on that limb on that oak tree. I sent you that picture. I got in, put my stand up, didn't like the position I was at, so I used my stand as another climbing stick, and then just stood on a branch for my hunt because it was
really badass over here.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it, but
pretty cool.
I'm Nick. I hunt on sticks. I'll just stand on a branch.
It's exactly how they did it in the olden days, and they were killing big bucks. So
they probably just sat on the ground.
No.
Or in a tree stand.
Uncle Frank will tell you about him climbing trees and using a 2x6 as his tree stand.
That's 2x6 more than you've had.
It was. Any hooser. So that's it for my virgin sits. Given all the tidbits I have. I feel like playing that meow game on Super Troopers. I've got to say it a certain amount of time before the podcast ends.
We should play that game next week.
I won't be here next week, guys.
Why?
Because he doesn't want to be part of that game.
Oh,
it's one of those airplane jokes.
Just went right over my head. So yeah, the last thing on our list,
but not least,
is calls and attractants, and this is during the season, like while you're hunting. I.e., buck grunts, rattling horns, doe bleats, snort wheezes,
all that,
everything, growl calls, whatever you want, chatterbaits.
Yeah, I'm not a huge caller. I never have been. I don't really use a lot of scents either. I'm pretty much just putting myself where I think they're going to be, and that's it. I'll grunt a little bit. I have done some snort wheezing and a little bit of bleeding, but that's it. I never rattle. I never go crazy with my grunting, or I don't do like elaborate sequences at timed intervals. I just, if it feels right, I'll let it out.
Every 7.5 minutes, I let out 3 long, slow grunts.
Yeah, exactly. No, I just don't. Excuse me. I've just never really felt like it was necessary. Where I set myself up, I'm putting myself on traffic areas and places that they're already going to be, and if I do, let out some light grunts or bleats, it's because I'm already looking at something. It's just, I want to bring it a little bit closer. It's just out of bow range. I just want to bring it to me a little bit. So I don't go nuts. I'll just, let out a little light sound to get their attention and pique their curiosity to make them move 10 feet. That's about it as far as my calling and sense.
Tom, I know you have a differing opinion.
Yeah, I don't shut the hell up when I'm
loud and proud.
Yeah, I like to get it going, shake things up. I like. Yeah, here you go. Yep. No, and it's worked well for me. So what I like to do, this is coming from a little bit of advice from a longtime friend of mine.
Is this just a tidbit of advice you're going to give here?
No, this is more than a tidbit. This is
a lot of bit.
Yeah. Longtime friend of mine, Stan. He taught me this trick.
Do I know Stan?
Potts. I don't know if you've met him or not. Longtime friend.
Yeah, we go way back.
Way back.
Stan Actually, Potts. I think he was featured on a hunting video or two, like back in the day.
He's got some good bucks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few on his wall. Not bad.
But he showed me this trick, and guys, I swear by it. It's done me good. It's never led me astray. Sorry, I'm getting a little loud. I'm getting excited here.
You keep changing. Worth getting excited. You keep changing your distance on the mic.
Yeah, you'll have that in these big jobs.
It's exciting stuff.
So, what I like to do is I'll let out a doe bleat, okay? Like an estrus bleat.
Now-
Actually, hold on. Let me rewind the tape. Early season. Thanks. Early season, I don't call. I'm just hunting food sources, hunting the deer pattern. When the rut kicks in, that's
When the calling kicks in.
Yeah. What I like to do is I like to let out an estrus bleat. Let the bucks know, hey,
Just one or a sequence?
I like to do 3. I don't know why.
Three's just
3
right.
long, very slow honks.
And I don't not like right in a row. Not like meow meow meow. It's like meow meow. Just a little quiet one like that, and then another loud one. About 5-10 seconds in between. There's no real math behind it. It's just
whatever feels
you'll
right.
feel
We
it.
know Tom and his math's not good, so don't.
When you
Don't
got
kid you.
I'm gonna name drop here. Extinguisher. That's my grunt
Deer
tube.
Society.
Yeah,
It's good
it's
stuff.
my favorite call. 'Cause you can just slide from fawn, bleat, estrus bleat, buck grunt, buck growl, all on the same call. It's awesome.
It is super handy.
So yeah, let out some estrus bleats.
Especially when you got deer in front of you. Like, you don't want to be playing with different things. It's just,
Yeah.
you never have to move your hand. It's just slide your thumb up and down.
Right. So let out some of them bleats, and then I wait about 10 minutes. And then what I like to do is let out some trailing grunts, which are just like,
Quick ones.
yeah, when a buck's trailing, they're like, "Brr, brr, brr, brr."
It's almost like with his breath. Like
Yeah,
it-
yeah. So
it's kind of a cool sound hearing a buck come ripping through. Because
Oh,
at
yeah.
first it's like, what the hell is that? And then it's like, oh,
Here he comes.
yeah. So now any other buck in that area is like, oh crud! I just heard this doe, and now a
this
buck's
guy's
trailing
taking
her.
it.
Like that's supposed to be my doe.
not in my house.
So I wait a little bit, and then I let out. I wait probably about a minute and a half. And then I let out one challenger grunt, followed by 2 snort wheezes.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Getting
So you have
serious.
this down to like a science of exact
Yeah,
2 of this, 1 of that, a dash of this.
yeah, and it works.
Cup of sugar and
Yeah,
you're good
this
to go.
should be your write it in pen, because it calls them right in. So 2 snort wheezes, and then I wait about 30 seconds. Then I grab my rattle bag and smash it up against the tree.
And that is the Stand Pod special.
Yeah, nothing quiet about it, and just bust them rattling horns up. Really throw sticks around, just cause a
Make
big
a
old
ruckus.
scene. Yeah, because when 2 bucks are fighting in the woods, they're not just locking horns. They're kicking up leaves and snapping sticks, brushing up against all kinds of crap, making a heck
a
of a
fight.
lot
It
of
makes
noise.
one hell
Yeah.
of a noise.
Yeah, it's wild. So I try and mimic that. And then, after that, I let it settle down. I wait about 5 minutes. And then I let out a tendon grunt, which is the buck breeding the doe. And that paints the whole picture. Okay, there's a hot doe in the area. A buck started trailing her. Another buck got pissed off, fought her for it. 1 buck won, and now he's breeding the doe. And I tell you what, one time, or more than one time, but
One
What-
time in
Hunting for 10 years, one time this worked.
one night in particular, this sequence, I did it 5 times, brought in 5 different bucks. Now,
Not bad.
they were just yearlings and 2.5-year-olds.
But that's not what this story is about.
No, I'm telling you, I mean, this is also Amish country, so I don't think there was a plethora of...
Not a bunch of 5.5-year-olds running around.
Yeah, but I'm sure if there were, they would have been there.
Oh, yeah. The
But-
dominant bucks came.
Yeah, the dominant bucks in that area, they showed up. And a lot of the time, you don't even get to do the whole sequence because it's a process. It takes some time. But a lot of times you get cut off halfway through because
You've got to grab
you're
your
grabbing
bow.
your bow. So, yeah, that's my thing. And it's never led me astray.
Yeah. So.
One other time,
Oh, here we go.
Twice when I was fishing.
So, up at my premium hunting spot up there, big camp, $9 in one night. That's my
I
record.
feel like Tom telling war stories. Every time this story gets told, there's more bucks.
No. That's the
How
most.
many Pope and Youngs are in this time?
One.
Starting to go down.
How about that?
That was all there ever was. But
It worked. That's all that matters.
yeah,
Because the rest were booners. Is that what you're gonna say?
no, the rest were anywhere from
150,
100 inches
160?
to spikes. But yeah, couldn't seal the deal on him. It was pretty.
on the spike.
No, he was a big 9-pointer. Anyway,
Are you a 9, like a pointer or a point kind of
did you
guy?
hear what I just said?
Yeah, but like sometimes people say different things depending on the context. I never say pointer. I'm always a pointer.
If it's an odd number,
see-
I feel like I lean more towards pointer.
See, it's
like that's
point,
a nice
it's always
8-point
point
buck.
for me unless you get to the 30-pointer buck. You seen
Yeah.
that 30-pointer?
So if it's a 29 point, and then once you hit 30,
After that, when you tell people, "Did you see the 30-pointer?" That's when I start throwing on them.
No, for me it's odd bucks or even bucks are just
they're just
point.
just
Yeah,
point.
like you got a big 8-point, a big 10-point, or you got a big 9-pointer or a big 11-pointer,
What about 7,
7-pointer.
5?
I
We don't
think
need
it's
to go through
universe.
every odd number, Nick.
I was gonna, but if you're just gonna sum it up there,
Yeah, that's where we're gonna stop.
okay. Am I allowed to talk about baits and attractants and
How about calls?
scents and calls? Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even talk about
Oh
calls.
my god.
Yeah, you
Yes, you
did.
did. That's all
Scents.
you talked about was
Scents.
calls. Like, if you didn't talk about calls, what the hell have you been rambling
Yeah,
about?
I didn't even talk about sense.
Because you don't make no sense.
How can I make sense when I got millions on my mind?
Tom, why don't you tell us
That
what
was
you use?
Post Malone. I don't. Not a big scent guy. Every once in a while, I'll put some estrus on my boot when I walk in. But, yeah.
That's the end of the road.
I used to use candles, but,
I've tried the candles a couple of times,
I had
but
problems with them blowing out.
yeah, that's
well, you got to put them in the windproof tubes.
They're in, but they're not windproof. I can promise you
Probably
that.
weren't doing it right.
But even if they're not burning, the candle still has quite a bit of scent, not burning.
Tell you what, my Uncle Mark used to swear by him. Said
Oh,
he used to have bucks burn their nose on him.
I've had that happen. Never a mature buck, but
I've had them work, but it wasn't like it was super consistent. I would never say that the
I don't
deer.
think it's ever hurt me.
No, it's never hurt, but I wouldn't say like the deer was going somewhere else, smelled the candle, and came right to me.
I tell you what,
I feel like they were already
those-
coming, and they just went over to check out what that was since they were already right there.
have those pretty much like fallen off, like the market? Like I have not seen those. I mean,
You could never get them at our local.
well,
like,
spoiler
big
alert, I don't
retailers.
use scents anymore. But I don't recall seeing them recently at any stores.
We
or,
never had them at big stores. There
Yeah.
was like one bow shop
Yeah.
Oh, really?
that had them.
Okay,
and,
so
like,
this is
one
just-
person would go down there and buy them for.
Yeah.
All right, well, then I want
everybody up
We'll
here.
just throw this out for the listeners. If they're familiar with candles, do you use them? Have you used them? And how do they work for you? Because that's now that I realize that it was just that. Like I was young when we were doing it at first.
Yeah, that was a long time
I didn't
ago.
realize that it was like just one place we were getting these candles. So I'm curious to see who else is using these.
You know, we tried making our own homemade ones, but Mom got real pissed when we started dumping dough estrus inside the house.
She wasn't in love with that.
No, believe it or not.
Used her good pots and everything. But all right, so I'm going to talk a little bit since we're on the scents and stuff. Little evolution. I used to be big time scent guy. You know, estrus on my boots walking in. Even there was a point where I was hanging estrus wafers on my hat in the stand all day.
I'm sure that was delicious.
It stunk. But you know, sometimes you just gotta, when you do stuff like that, you feel like you're really into it.
Yeah.
And you're hardcore. You know,
You're
it's
really
like
becoming one with the woods.
it's like standing on a tree limb while you're hunting.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, you have that wafer hanging on your hat. You feel like you're really roughing it. Well, I got to a point where I realized that my hat smells like piss, and I'm not killing anything. So there's
Time to change something.
Yeah, so
we're
I
starting with the piss smelling hat.
yeah, the piss hat is gone. So I don't use scents anymore because I never felt like they helped at all, ever. Just never saw it work for me. And then when it comes to calls, I used to be big time caller. and I think it did more harm than good. Actually, I know it did a lot more harm than good because, that big buck comes in, and I just get impatient. And,
got to let out 47 grunts.
Buck comes in the field, 80 yards out, and I'm like, well, if he was going to come here, he would have done it by now, so I better start calling. And it never worked for me. So, and then even, a buck that just gets outside of range, I just start grunting like an idiot as he's walking away.
Panicking, hoping he comes back.
It was like panic grunts. And rattling and stuff. I never had anything besides like young bucks screwing around with a grunt tube.
Yeah.
I've never had any reaction to any calls. So probably about the past 2 years, they've been in my bag, but I don't use them anymore. And this year, honestly, I'm probably just going to drop them completely because I just don't even want the temptation anymore because like I had 2 opportunities where I had bucks in range that I wanted to kill that I couldn't capitalize on. And one of them I did, he got outside of range. Like he snuck in on me. He got outside and I just started grunting like an idiot. Like I haven't used a grunt tube in a year. And because it was there, I was like, I got to give this a shot.
Got to make something happen.
I feel like I like taking the approach of being on their, like killing them on their natural trail.
Yeah.
I don't want to influence them in any way anymore.
Yeah.
And I think what happened was I grunted like that and I just gave away my location and I didn't see that buck again in that area.
Yeah. And it doesn't sound natural when you're just making stupid sounds.
Exactly. Because it was panicking. Like I said, I hunted that area a few more times the rest of that week and never saw that buck through there. And, I mean, that could have nothing to do with my call, but that's how I associate it. So this year, I think the calls are staying home. I'm just not going to use them.
Right on.
So does anybody have any, like, wrap-up remarks that they want to say?
No, I think we about covered
White Cat Palooza, be there or be square.
July 25th, 2020.
DM us for details. I do want to thank Jimmy for the inspiration for this episode. Producing a weekly podcast does get tough to pick topics. So when we got a fan that tells us, hey, I was, doing this and I wanted your guys' opinion on it, it sets it up easy for us to have a podcast. So if anybody out there has something, maybe they're thinking about trying or just anything, send us a message, text us. We love hearing from people that listen, and we'd be glad to talk about it on a podcast. Like this one was about 85% from Jimmy's questions, so we really appreciate those, and hope to do more podcasts like this in the future because I know we've talked amongst ourselves, and as fun as entertaining podcasts are and everything, we do like to be informative so people can learn something while they're listening. So when you guys come to questions or give us questions, it tells us what our listeners want to learn about.
Yeah.
And it makes it really easy for us to be informative. And best we can do is tell you how it's worked for us or didn't work for us. So thanks again, Jimmy. It's a hot one out there, but make sure you guys are getting outside.